Chosen ones, you were never meant to blend in. The emerald tablets did not etch your name by accident. They waited, sealed beneath veils of illusion, for the exact frequency of your awakening. While the world dismissed them as esoteric riddles or alchemical lore, the truth was encoded beyond language in vibrations only your soul could recognize. You felt it, didn't you? That pull toward something ancient, something deeper than this realm. It's not curiosity, it's memory, a spiritual resonance like the soft hum of a name being called through solid stone. That name is yours. Long before birth, before form, before even this timeline, your identity was inscribed in the very blueprint of divine order. The ones who carved the tablets were not of this earth as we know it. They were beings of luminous intelligence, keepers of timelines, architects of metaphysical law, and they encoded prophecies for one who would come not as a ruler, but as a revealer. You. You are not reading this now by chance. The universe orchestrates no coincidences. Your path has been littered with signs, symbols you didn't understand then, but now vibrate with familiarity. That strange dream about sacred geometry, the moment's time bent unnaturally around your decisions, the words of strangers who spoke into your destiny without knowing you. It was all the stone speaking. The tablets are not just physical artifacts, they are cosmic mirrors. When a true chosen one gazes upon them, they speak. Not with words, but with knowing, with energy. They call out the one whose presence alone can decrypt the code. And yet, this is only the beginning. You've activated the gateway, but what lies ahead will test every fiber of your being. Each chapter will strip illusion. Each word will dismantle the lie you were forced to live. Every truth will echo through your bones like the memory of a life you've lived across lifetimes. The emerald tablets do not need to be translated. They need to be remembered. The surface of the emerald tablets shimmered like liquid under starlight, their glow resisting the touch of time. Beneath the temple ruins of what once was Atlantis, hidden in a chamber so deeply encrypted with light-frequency glyphs, only a soul attuned beyond the third dimension could even perceive their message. They weren't meant to be read, they were meant to be unlocked. And the key wasn't a tool, it was a being, a name, yours. Thousands of years ago, before the oceans claimed Atlantis, a select group of scribes known as the Codebreakers devoted their lives to transcribing the divine resonance embedded in the tablets. These weren't ordinary scholars. They operated in communion with higher realms, translating the language of light into sound and sound into form. They prophesied the arrival of a singular soul, veiled in flesh, whose very frequency would match the sacred geometry inscribed into the emerald surface. They spoke of you not with hope, but certainty. The Codebreakers were not obsessed with knowledge for its own sake. Their entire mission revolved around one event, a future activation that would send ripples across timelines, dismantling synthetic realities and restoring the original blueprint of human divinity. They knew that the emerald tablets weren't static. They were living technologies. And like all divine tech, they responded not to intellect, but to presence. That's why your awakening wasn't just important. It was inevitable. As you walk the earth now, feeling half in this world and half out, you've likely noticed something peculiar. Names have always mattered more to you than they do to others. You feel the pull of ancient syllables. You resonate with sounds that others ignore. There's a reason for that. Your name, your true name, isn't just identification. It's activation. And long ago, it was buried beneath light to prevent it from being corrupted or used against you. Modern society has done everything to drown out this truth. It renamed you, rebranded you, programmed you to believe that you are like everyone else. But something inside you never consented. That inner voice, that quiet resistance, it's the codebreaker within, still alive in your DNA, still attuned to the light. Before the concept of years, before planets spun in calibrated rhythm, there was only the architect. Not a figure of flesh or form, but a force of divine will that bent sound into structure, breath into blueprint. It was the architect who shaped timelines with intention, who placed markers within the strands of existence to signal when the chosen would rise. You were not simply born, you were placed, deliberately, delicately, into the architecture of time itself. In the celestial matrix where the emerald tablets first formed, your name wasn't spoken. It was encoded, etched into quantum harmonics, inscribed into the invisible song that weaves this universe together. Every heartbeat, every breath you take now echoes back to that original inscription. This is why you've never quite fit into the linear world. Time, for you, was never a straight road. It bent, looped, whispered, because you were made from its bones. Ancient mystics attempted to chart the architect's pattern through rituals, star alignments, and sacred mathematics. They believed the secrets of destiny could be decoded by mapping where and when a soul entered the field. But you were an anomaly. You existed outside their equations. You were not assigned a destiny. You were designed to reveal one. There were fragments left behind, whispers in forgotten scriptures, anomalies in sacred geometry, even sudden shifts in magnetic fields that scholars couldn't explain. But every clue pointed to one thing: a singular being whose soul bore the signature of the architect. That signature is you, not metaphorically, literally. You are the expression of divine precision, encoded before creation, sealed behind veils until the exact moment reality needed correcting. And reality is fracturing now. Look around. The time loops, the collective amnesia, the rewriting of histories once known. It's not random. It's a system glitching in your presence. When something outside the original code enters the simulation, the system scrambles. The tablets didn't call your name for nostalgia. They did it because the fracture requires your frequency to stabilize it. Your dreams have likely intensified. Memories of places you've never been, people you've never met speaking your name, symbols that appear and then vanish just before you can decipher them. These aren't figments. They are bleed-throughs, evidence that your presence is beginning to reformat the structure. And in the heart of this unraveling is a truth you haven't yet dared to believe. The architect did more than place you here. The architect placed part of itself in you, which means your awakening is not a rebellion. It's a return, not to who you were, but to who you've always been beneath the programming. Buried beneath the Sphinx, hidden below centuries of sand and misdirection, lies a chamber no human hand has opened in recorded history. Not because it's locked by physical mechanisms, but because the key was never mechanical. It was vibrational. And it was you, not your voice or your blood, but your frequency. The chamber does not respond to status or strength. It waits only for the one who resonates with a forgotten name. The ancients knew. They weren't primitive builders carving rock with crude tools. They were dimensional scientists, spiritual engineers who understood that sound could move matter and intention could carve space. They hid their greatest truth not in plain sight but beneath it. Not even the high priests of Egypt knew the full scope. Only a few, those who walked between lifetimes, were told the secret, that the chamber beneath the Sphinx would awaken when the one carrying the true resonance returned. You've likely been drawn to Egypt in some unexplainable way, perhaps not physically, but through visions, images, films, or feelings. A strange magnetic pull toward the pyramids, a recurring sense that something important about you is buried in that land. That isn't tourism. That's memory trying to resurface. That's alignment whispering through timelines. There are maps etched into the bedrock, not geographical ones, but energetic pathways. The Sphinx was not a monument to a king, but a guardian of knowledge so potent it had to be buried under myth. The chamber beneath is not empty. It's a vault containing echoes of your past lives, your encoded instructions, and a mirror that doesn't show your reflection but your essence. The closer you come to remembering, the more the seal begins to tremble. This is why your energy has disrupted systems lately. Electrical fields around you glitch. People who once tolerated your presence now feel inexplicably triggered. The simulation senses the awakening of a soul that's no longer dormant. And that chamber beneath the Sphinx? It is beginning to listen. The ancients believed time was not linear but concentric. Cycles folding upon cycles, waiting for a soul brave enough to stand at the center. That center is awakening now. You are aligning not just with purpose but with place. The place where you once stood. The place where the truth was sealed, and it's no longer a matter of if it opens, but when. There are scrolls not accounted for in any canon, sealed not in libraries or tombs, but in the living breath of chosen souls. Yeshua knew this. He understood that divine truth, once written in stone or ink, could be destroyed, misused, rewritten. But when carried within the soul of the awakened, it became incorruptible. And so he left more than parables and miracles behind. He left fragments of the living word encrypted in those who would come after him, in you. These were not words for the masses. They were frequencies meant to be activated only by the appointed, long after the temples had been burned and the teachings distorted. While empires fought over books and bloodlines, Yeshua's scrolls traveled silently through time, nested in DNA, waiting for a moment of remembrance. You are that moment. The emerald tablets speak now not because the world is ready, but because you are. He once said, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." What if he wasn't referring to the scriptures written down by men, but to a divine code carried by the few who would awaken when the time of unveiling arrived? What if those words weren't meant to be read at all, but felt, like electricity rippling through your spine at the sound of a certain name, a certain phrase that resonates with truth so ancient it bypasses logic? You've felt this before. In dreams where a voice calls to you with a language you can't translate but understand completely. In moments of stillness where tears rise without explanation. In the sudden knowing that something sacred is happening, even when there's no evidence. These are not coincidences. These are the scrolls within you unfolding page by page. And it is no mistake that Yeshua, who spoke often in metaphor, pointed constantly to the kingdom being within. He never directed the world to look at buildings or books. He said, "You are the temple. You are the scroll. You are the word becoming flesh again." This changes everything. The emerald tablets are no longer just ancient artifacts. They're companions to a much deeper revelation. They were designed to resonate when someone who carried the living echo of Yeshua's hidden scrolls would rise. That resonance is occurring now, in real time, each time your awareness cracks open wider. But the scrolls within you are incomplete without activation. And activation requires contact with a certain memory, a sound, a forgotten piece of yourself that has yet to surface. You remember the dream. It wasn't like the others. It carried weight, silence, and codes. A temple without walls, a being standing in front of you, not quite human, not entirely divine, draped in robes that shimmered with symbols you somehow recognized but couldn't decipher. His eyes were ancient, not with age, but with memory. You didn't know his name, but when he spoke, your soul whispered back, Thoth. The dream didn't end when you woke up. It leaked into your day. Street signs flickered, clocks reset. Your phone froze for no reason. People spoke to you, but their words blurred as if something was trying to override your normal perception. You shrugged it off at first, labeled it coincidence. But deep down, something shifted. Reality had glitched, and that glitch was not an error, it was an invitation. Thoth was never a myth to those who built the original civilizations. He was the keeper of divine measure. The scribe who encoded the laws of balance, the one who understood how consciousness and time could be braided like threads in a loom. Those who served him in the temples of Atlantis and Chem knew that his presence wasn't a being, it was a frequency. One that visited only those who had a role in remembering the architecture of light. That dream was not just a message, it was an activation. A key turned in a lock that had waited lifetimes. The reason everything around you flickered wasn't random. When your consciousness brushed against the essence of Thoth, the simulation lost grip. Reality bent to acknowledge your awakening. And what you call a glitch was actually alignment. This wasn't the first time Thoth reached into your life. As a child, you may have been drawn to symbols you didn't understand. Ankhs, eyes, spirals, birds with human heads. You may have spoken languages in your sleep. You may have had moments of knowing things you'd never learned. These weren't quirks. They were the residue of an ancient agreement being reawakened. Thoth once inscribed the emerald tablets with vibrations that could only be unlocked by those encoded with the same frequency. You're not studying these messages. You are remembering them. That dream wasn't imagination. It was contact. And that contact restructured something inside you. In a hidden vault below the Peruvian Andes, buried beneath strata that predate accepted timelines, rests an obsidian slab inscribed with a prophecy. Not in words, but in fractal-like etchings that refract light in unnatural ways. Those who have glimpsed it say the patterns pulse with life, like the surface is aware, watching. The slab does not reveal itself to just anyone. It recognizes only one type of soul, the kind that doesn't begin at birth. The kind that echoes before time itself was a concept. You are of that bloodline. This isn't a bloodline you trace through family trees or historical archives. It's not defined by nation or language. It's coded in resonance. The obsidian holds records of those who incarnate without ancestral karma, unbound by generational cycles. The bloodline with no beginning, because it was not born of this world. You carry this lineage. That's why your journey has always felt different, unexplainable, out of sync with the narratives others accept. You weren't made to repeat the past. You were made to rewrite the pattern. And yet, this bloodline has been hidden for ages, not because it was forgotten, but because it was feared. Those who operate in shadow understood that when even one from this lineage awakens fully, the fabric of control begins to unravel. The illusion only holds if the eternal forgets its name. The prophecy on the obsidian doesn't speak of events or dates, it speaks of frequency shifts, of the moment when one of the timeless would align with the pulse of Earth and awaken the dormant codes seeded across civilizations. The emerald tablets are one of these codes. So is the slab. So are you. You are not reading these messages. You are syncing with them. There are places on the earth that have begun to hum again. Ancient sites long thought dead are vibrating at higher frequencies. Temples that echo when you stand in their center. Mountains that call to you without language. This isn't mysticism. It's synchronization. The bloodline without beginning has begun to stir. Yeshua spoke in parables, but his essence was a frequency that mirrored yours. Not of a teacher above, but of a brother beside. Before Abraham was, I am, he said, not as ego, but as remembrance. The eternal speaks not of lifetimes, but of presence, the same presence waking within you now. In the deserts of Qumran, long before the scrolls were found, there was a whisper passed between mystics, not of doctrine, but of vibration. They called it the sound beyond sound. Not a chant or a language, but a current of divine resonance only accessible to those who had stilled their minds to the quiet beyond thought. And in the heart of that silence, they believed, existed a word, not spoken with the mouth, but with the soul. The ancients claimed Yeshua knew this word, not just intellectually, but vibrationally. He became it. This word was not something one learned, it was something one remembered. And to remember, it was to unlock the fabric of existence itself. Yeshua didn't perform miracles because he had special powers. He was in tune with the original frequency. When he said, "Let those who have ears hear," he was not speaking of physical ears. He meant the ones who could hear the resonance behind the illusion. That word, the one the mystics preserved without ever writing down, is not gone. It is hidden in you. Not symbolically, but literally. In the vibration of your breath, in the cadence of your heartbeat, in the moments you speak truth and the air around you shifts. The emerald tablets hum because they detect a familiar tone, one that matches the very resonance Yeshua once carried. And that tone is awakening in you. You've likely noticed the world reacting strangely to your voice at times. You speak, and silence follows. People pause, startled, unsure why they feel what they feel. Technology glitches when you're near. Lights flicker. The air thickens. This is not coincidence. You are beginning to vibrate with the sound beyond sound, and the world, still trapped in lower frequency, doesn't know how to respond. There is a passage attributed to Yeshua that was never canonized. It spoke of the word being a living river, flowing through the ones who remember their origin. He warned that many would imitate the sound, but few would embody it. Because embodiment requires the death of the false self. The ego cannot carry the word. Only the soul can. That is the path you now walk. A return to resonance, a shedding of distortion. Each moment you speak from truth, you pulse with the original word. And each time you do, the tablets respond like chimes in the presence of wind. There was a moment long before you were born into this world when the stars whispered across the fabric of space, not in language, but in pulses, not in direction, but in knowing. And in that moment, they spoke of a soul, a singular presence that would cross through veils and densities to carry a message embedded in the silence between frequencies. They didn't describe what you'd look like. They didn't speak of your name as humans understand it. They sang your resonance. For aeons they waited. The stars are not just burning gas, not merely celestial decorations in the night sky. They are archives, living libraries, observers of cycles, keepers of remembrance. Their flicker is not just the result of distance, it is communication. And when your soul began to stir toward remembrance, they responded. That's why you felt drawn to certain constellations for no logical reason. Why looking up at the night sky sometimes feels like returning home, because it is. Ancient civilizations knew this. They mapped the heavens not to predict fate, but to track when souls of a particular vibration would incarnate. They knew that every so often someone would arrive who did not belong to any earthly timeline, a temporal anomaly, a living breach in the veil. You are that breach. And when you came into being, the stars adjusted their rhythm to accommodate your frequency. Everything that has happened to you, the unexplainable dreams, the moments of time slowing down, the sense that you're being watched not by people but by presence, it's all connected. You're not just here to awaken. You're here to complete a harmonic pattern that was interrupted. The emerald tablets speak not just of knowledge but of sound, of stellar resonance. And you, without knowing it, are becoming a tuning fork for that resonance to return. The message the stars whispered included you by essence, not identity. But something else happened recently. For the first time in this age, the resonance of a soul reached back to them. They were heard, and they responded. There are signs, a star that blinked out and returned, a pulse detected in space that forms a Fibonacci sequence, a pattern that doesn't originate from this universe, yet echoes with your frequency. This isn't science fiction, this is cosmic confirmation. And now something extraordinary is underway. The stars are aligning not in random formation, but in sequence, not for prophecy, but for delivery. They are waiting to receive something only you can emit, a vibrational key, a message you haven't yet remembered how to speak. In the hidden chambers beneath the Vatican, in archives never listed and corridors never mapped, a council has existed for centuries. The Council of Seven, not elected, not public, not even whispered of in the shadows. They are the custodians of containment, not of knowledge, but of truth. Their purpose has never been to reveal, but to delay. Delay your arrival, delay your memory, delay the inevitable moment when the stone would speak, and the one it called to would finally hear it. That moment is now. The Council's power doesn't lie in military might or political influence. It lies in perception management. They rewrote timelines, buried artifacts, redirected spiritual teachings. Even some of the emerald tablets themselves were intercepted, copied, and diluted before reaching public awareness. But there was one they couldn't touch, one fragment of the stone that remained outside their reach, not because it was hidden geographically, but because it was sealed in frequency. A frequency that didn't exist in this world until you arrived. They tried to create false chosen ones, crafted spiritual influencers, messengers, prophets groomed to lead masses into safer, controlled awakenings, but none of them could activate the stone. None could decode the resonance, because it wasn't about power, it was about alignment. The stone was not designed to respond to ego, intellect, or charisma. It was designed to respond to a soul forged before time. You carry within you a pattern the Council has studied for decades, but could never replicate. The closer you come to full remembrance, the more erratic their signals become. You've felt this, waves of interference, unexpected emotional surges, dreams that shift from prophetic to chaotic. That's them, trying to scramble the broadcast, because once you remember what the stone contains, their dominion ends. And here's where it becomes undeniable. The Council knows your name. Not the one given to you at birth, but the one the tablets hum when you're near. They've seen you in visions, traced you through bloodlines that appear to end and then mysteriously reemerge. You are the anomaly in their system, the crack in their algorithm, the prophecy they were instructed to prevent but never truly understood. Yeshua once said, "What is whispered in secret will be shouted from the rooftops." He wasn't talking about gossip. He was speaking of moments like this, of truths so long buried that even the silence protecting them starts to collapse. And the stone, they couldn't silence it, because it was never made to speak through voice. It was made to speak through you. There was no grand sound, no trumpet from the sky, no thunder cracking the veil of heaven, just a subtle vibration, almost imperceptible, that moved through the fabric of the unseen the moment you stepped into alignment. And in that moment, the emerald tablets whispered, not in language, not in syllables, but in essence. And as they did, gates began to open, not physical ones, but energetic, dimensional, sacred. You didn't see it at first. The shift was internal, a soft unraveling of everything you thought you were. Ideas, identities, even memories began to rearrange. And while you tried to make sense of it, the hidden mechanisms of ancient realms began turning. Locks unlatched, codes cracked, structures sealed by intention, now undone by presence. Your presence. These gates were never meant to be accessed through rituals or rites. They weren't triggered by bloodlines or incantations. They were designed to respond to resonance. And your soul, coded in timelines outside the reach of history, has carried the frequency that the tablets have waited for since the beginning. You didn't unlock them with force. You harmonized with them by remembering. And as the gates opened, so did everything they were guarding. Realms of forgotten knowledge, entities long silent, now awakening. The past didn't just return. It began to rewrite itself around you. Because the future, it turns out, was never linear. It was circular, folded, and you were always at the center. People around you feel it. Some recoil without knowing why. Others are inexplicably drawn to you. Conversations shift, eyes linger. Doors appear in places they shouldn't. This isn't coincidence. This is the unraveling of the old grid. Your field, your energetic signature, is destabilizing synthetic timelines just by existing fully, and that's why you felt pressure, fatigue, resistance. The simulation recognizes your awakening as a threat, but it's not your job to fight it. It's your role to remain aligned. There's one last mystery embedded in the tablets, a line that cannot be read, only lived. The architects called it the threshold line, the moment when the one they encoded for steps into full remembrance and becomes the living bridge between worlds. That line is where you now stand, and while the tablets have whispered, they have not finished speaking, because what opens one gate may awaken others long forgotten, even by those who created them. If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.